Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review. Today we are taking a look at Season 7, Episode 4, Out of the Past, which is probably the most generic, time-travel-y title you could give your time travel TV show episode name, but oh well. We're not here reviewing the... Well, actually, I suppose at this point we kind of are. I think this is the third week in a row where I've made some sort of mention about the name of the episode, so maybe we are here just to review the names of the episodes. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, big takeaway right off the bat that I just want to skip through all of the stuff. Agent May has powers. That's awesome. She's an empath now, which is hilarious because... you know, for most of the show, she's always been this very cold and calculating, emotionless woman, and then, you know, we've very slowly gotten to know her and you know, dive deep into her psyche and stuff and what makes her tick, but she's always still been very stoic, and now, because she doesn't have many emotions of her own, she's now feeling everyone else's emotions. That's hilarious. It's like, of all the people to get empath powers, it's Agent May. I find that really funny. And hey, it's honestly really kind of cool. I like that Agent May has powers now. I'm excited to see what they do with that in the future for the rest of the season. And it's also kind of funny because at this point, Mac and Deke are like the only people that don't have powers of some sort. Fitzsimmons, you know, they have their brains, so that's their superpower. Their smarts are their brains. Their smarts are their brains. Yes, I do realize what I just said. Their smarts are their powers. But yeah, so at this point, because Coulson's an LMD, Daisy's an Inhuman. I guess. Well, I mean, we've also got Sousa on the team now. So yeah, that kind of answers my question about what the heck they were going to do with Daniel Sousa from my little tirade last week. It's like, well, what are they going to do with Sousa? You know, are they really just going to throw him under the bus and kill him off? So that way Peggy can be free to marry Cap in the Prime timeline or whatever. I mean, I you know, they didn't really answer any of those questions about Prime timeline, Peggy Carter, you know, who did she, it was Steve. It's like, and honestly, it was probably too much of me to expect them to answer those questions, but we do have an answer on where the heck Sousa went. And, well, they plucked him out of the timeline. You know, to the world, he is dead, so history has not changed. But, you know, they managed to save him. And, you know, they pulled a Doctor Who. They managed to save him, rewrite a little bit of history while not rewriting history at the same time with a loophole. And now Sousa is officially part of the team. For how long? I don't know. I hope he sticks around for the rest of the season. That'd be cool. I don't know. He may not, but you know, I mean, we've kind of been down a man since Fitz hasn't been here this entire season so far, and has just been mentioned. So I mean, it's you know, we've been a little light. And Enoch is still trapped. Poor Enoch. Man, yeah, he's he finally gets that phone call, and even though he's in an emotionless chronicom, you can see that he's excited. Yeah, he's happy. He's ready to get back in the field with his team, and then they just keep asking him to transfer them to the Zephyr. That's just poor Enoch. I feel so bad for him. And when Deke is actually like, "Well, how are you, man?" You know, he actually wants to strike up a quick conversation. Enoch just goes, No, I'll transfer you. It's like, does he just not want to talk to Deke, or what's the deal? Honestly, pretty dang funny. Poor Enoch. I can't wait for him to rejoin the team next episode, as we saw in the trailer. So yeah, let me think here. You know, we got Freddie Malek back. That's not really too much of a surprise. I'm not really surprised that Freddie Malek is back. Of course, you know, he's going by Wilfred Malek, you know, more formal because he's older. And it looks like he's going to show up next episode as well. So it looks like the Maleks could be overarching villains of the season again, like they were back in season 3. So that'll be interesting. You know, bringing back Hydra full force here after they kind of went on a little bit of a break the last 2 seasons or so. So Yeah. So the one big thing to talk about this episode is the format change. Is that it was a little different than usual, in that the entire thing was in black and white, and Coulson's narration was laced over the entire thing, like an old noir detective film from the 1950s, which is fitting since this is in 1955. And it was funny that the explanation they gave at the very end, when Simmons fixes him back up, is that that the EMP short circuited him, and when he woke up, something had gone all screwy. So color had drained from the world, and he had and he had the internal monologue going. So it's like I always say, sometimes the hero has to die. Like an old detective movie. That was hilarious, and the how they actually managed to work it naturally into the plot, and it wasn't just that this episode was a random one-off. Oh, we're doing this one like a 50s movie, detective movie. They actually had a reason for it to be like that, and they explained it in the plot. And in the last 10 minutes of the episode, the color came back into the world because Coulson got all fixed up. So that I appreciated that. That was really funny. So when Sousa was talking about Stark's man in L.A., I was really hoping for Edwin Jarvis. I gotta admit, I was really hoping for Edwin Jarvis. That would have been so cool. I would have loved that. It would have been awesome if Jarvis had been there, but oh well. This is kind of a season of trying to get my hopes up for things that are probably outlandish and not going to happen, and then being disappointed when they happen, and then about 3 seconds later going, why am I disappointed that didn't happen? Yeah, it's not a big surprise that didn't happen. So, but I mean, I don't know. Who knows what kind of surprises they could throw at us for the rest of the show. So, it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm disappointed, but I'm not really disappointed, because, it was kind of just a pipe dream almost, just kind of hoping for hope's sake. So, yeah, it was interesting seeing Sousa running around and stuff, and the agents going, ooh, this is the day he's supposed to die. We gotta, we kind of have to keep history on track here, but do we? And he's like, as Mac so eloquently put, it's easier to let a bad man live than it is to let a good man die. And then Coulson has that great line. That's a really good line. I wish I had said that. That was a really good line. I enjoyed that. So yeah, I mean, obviously they had to wrestle with that, but it's interesting to see Mac kind of flip flop on his statement of, it's like, no, we got to keep history intact. All right, we're going to potentially change history here. We're going to remove Sousa from the timeline. It'll be interesting to see if that causes a little bit of, what's the word? A little bit of strife, a little bit of trouble with Daisy here in the next couple episodes. It's like, oh, so when I say we should kill Freddie Malik, you're all like, no, that's not right. But then the second it looks like Sousa's in danger, a good guy, you're like, oh, we need to save him. So that could lead to problems here in the next couple episodes. My mom was like, oh, okay, so you're just gonna reverse your decision you made a couple weeks ago about letting Malik live, and so I told her, it's like, do as I say, not as I do. So we'll see if that comes back into play in the future. Let me think here. Honestly, I don't have too much to say about this episode. Overall, it was just a really good episode. Okay, one thing I do have to say about this episode is Sousa and trying to figure out who these people are. So there is a moment where he's sitting in the their little cargo bay of the Zephyr with Daisy, and he's saying, I don't know what's more frustrating, the fact that you guys won't tell me who you are, or you won't tell me who I'm up against, or whatever. And they have that conversation about how Daisy knows that Hydra is embedded inside S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that, and he's trying to figure out who they are. Well, when he decides to leave, and he hops on that motorcycle and drives out, on the door that I'm pretty sure he came through that door to get down into the lower levels of the Zephyr from, the main kind of crew bay and the cockpit and all that, from where the Quinjet is. there is a pretty noticeable S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on the door that he totally would have noticed, and you would think that, and it's not a, oh, well, it was the more modern S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, he's not used to it, except he sees that logo there at the very end, and he identifies it, oh, you guys are S.H.I.E.L.D., and Coulson says, S.H.I.E.L.D. from the future. It's like, so, I mean, he's smart, he immediately knows that's the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo upon seeing it at the end of the episode. So obviously that the fact that they had a S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on that crew bay door inside the Zephyr up a level, obviously that is something that escaped the production team from script to filming stage, because Sousa totally would have seen that. You know, if I were Sousa and I was looking around trying to figure out what this place is, and it's like, oh man, it's all futuristic and stuff. What kind of service of the military has this kind of tech, and then I'm looking around and I look up just a little bit, or even if I had come through that door and I see that logo, it's like, this is S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, it's like, that's even something they could have fixed later. When I don't know, maybe this is one of those things where they filmed it out of order, so they couldn't go back and fix it. But they have that moment where he sees the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo and says, "You guys are S.H.I.E.L.D. I saw that earlier. I know you guys are S.H.I.E.L.D. I just didn't bring it up earlier because I didn't have time. I need to get to my drop." That would have been fine. I would have been fine with that. But they have that so glaringly obvious S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on the door, and Sousa just doesn't see it. I mean, there might as well have been arrows pointing to it going, hey, buddy, this is S.H.I.E.L.D. from the future. So I found that really funny, where Sousa drives away, and then everyone runs into the cargo hold, and then they stare at the open ramp, and there's that shot of everyone right before it goes to commercial, and they're all like, oh man, we missed him. And it's that tilted up pan shot, and there's the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on the door on that second level, and I paused it. I'm like, he would have totally seen that, right? My family was like, oh yeah, he totally would have seen that. What the heck? Come on, people to make this show. So I wonder if that's something they caught in editing. It's like, and they're like, we can't do anything about that. It's like, because my dad mentions, like, oh, it'd be easy to CG over that, right? It'd be pretty easy to remove that. It's like, and I'm like, yeah, it would, but then that creates another continuity issue where it disappears for an episode, and because they knew Sousa couldn't see that, and then they bring it back an episode later because that is no longer a problem. It's like, why did that logo mysteriously disappear from the door for an episode? So they were kind of screwed either way with that. I find it really, really funny. That's just a funny little continuity Easter egg isn't the right word, but it's not a nitpick either. It's just a fun. Ultimately, it's not really a big deal. It's not like it's a huge glaring plot hole. It's just a funny little, oh hey, look at that. They totally. It's just a funny little thing that I thought was humorous. So yeah. Sousa is officially part of the team now. That's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna be excited to see how that turns out. So yeah, I think that's really all I have for this episode in manner of things to talk about. Things kind of got some of the dangling plot threads from last episode got cleaned up, obviously, because this was the part 2 of last week's part 1 story. Even though, again, like I mentioned last week, is that this season is moving along at a clip. It is pretty sequential. It is. This is the next part. This is the next part. This is the next part. But now they've left. Now they've left 1955. So this was the end of our 2-part 1955 story arc. So it seems like they're probably going to spend 2 or 3 episodes in each era, which makes sense because just from a production standpoint, it makes sense because you don't want to get all this period accurate clothing and costume and sets and all this stuff and just use it for 1 episode. You'd probably want to use it for 2, so that I totally understand why they're spacing this stuff out. So yeah, next week Enoch is back with the team. Patrick Warburton is joining the cast for the episode after having a small cameo back in season 5, being the kind of the hologram guide to the lighthouse. So the fact that he's actually going to be here in the flesh is very fun. Patrick Warburton is always appreciated. And yeah, I really liked this episode. I can't wait for next week. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.